At first glance, December seems quiet. Holiday season, end of year, politicians heading home. But beneath the surface, something major just changed. New pistol regulations are now active in all 50 states, and most gun owners don't even know it yet. This isn't another local tweak or city ordinance. It's a coordinated wave of updates that affects how you buy, carry, and store your handgun, no matter where you live. From Florida to Washington, from Arizona to Maine, the rules shifted overnight. And if you're still operating under last month's assumptions, you're already out of compliance. Here's what actually changed, why it matters, and what you need to do before January. Let's start with a big one. The ATF finalized its pistol brace rule, and the grace period just ended. If you own a pistol with a stabilizing brace, you're now subject to new federal requirements that override state preferences. The agency reclassified braced pistols as short-barreled rifles under the National Firearms Act. That means registration, tax stamps, and potential felony charges if you're caught non-compliant. But here's where it gets messy. Not every brace qualifies. Not every configuration triggers the rule. And the ATF's own decision tree is so convoluted that even FFLs are confused. Some owners rush to register. Others remove their braces entirely. And thousands are still sitting in legal limbo, unsure whether they're criminals or not. This isn't theoretical. Federal agents have already begun compliance checks at gun shows and ranges. If your pistol setup includes a brace, you're now operating under a new set of rules whether you agree with them or not. While the federal government focused on braces, state legislatures quietly expanded red flag laws in 19 states this fall. These extreme risk protection orders now cover more people, last longer, and carry harsher penalties for violations. States like Colorado, Maryland, and Michigan broadened who can petition for an order. It's no longer just law enforcement. Now ex-partners, roommates, and even distant family members can file a claim that strips your gun rights without a criminal charge. The hearings happen fast, often without you present. And once the order is issued, you have days to surrender every firearm you own, including pistols. What used to require a conviction now requires an accusation. And in December, that standard just got lower in nearly 20 states. If you live in one of them, your rights depend less on what you did and more on who you upset. The FBI's NICS system just rolled out its biggest update in a decade, and it's causing delays nationwide. The new protocol cross-references mental health records, juvenile offenses, and restraining orders that were previously siloed. On paper, it sounds reasonable. In practice, it's grinding pistol sales to a crawl. What used to be a 10-minute approval now takes hours, sometimes days. And if your name matches someone flagged in the system, expect a manual review that can stretch into weeks. Even worse, the update introduced new denial categories that weren't there before. Misdemeanor offenses from 20 years ago are suddenly popping up. Dismissed charges are being treated as active, and appeals take longer than ever to resolve. If you're planning to buy a pistol this month, prepare for frustration. The system isn't broken, it's just been redesigned to slow everything down. December brought a wave of concealed carry changes that most permit holders missed entirely. 12 states updated their requirements, and the differences are stark. Constitutional carry states like Ohio and Alabama expanded, where you can carry without a permit. But blue states like New York and California added new restrictions that make permits harder to get and easier to lose. New York now requires live-fire recertification every 3 years. California expanded its list of sensitive places where carry is banned, even with a permit. And states like Illinois introduced mandatory insurance requirements that cost hundreds annually. Meanwhile, Vermont and Kentucky went the opposite direction, removing barriers and eliminating fees. The result? A nation even more divided on carry laws than it was 6 months ago. What works in one state can land you in jail in another. And December made that gap wider, not narrower. Behind every new rule, there's a case that forced the issue. In Michigan, a domestic dispute turned deadly when a lawfully armed man used his pistol in self-defense, only to be charged under a new red flag order filed hours earlier. The case is still pending, but it's already being cited as justification for tighter controls. In Texas, a braced pistol owner was arrested at a traffic stop after an officer recognized his setup as non-compliant under the new ATF rule. He wasn't committing a crime. He was carrying the same pistol he'd owned for 5 years. But the law changed, and ignorance wasn't an excuse. Stories like these aren't outliers. They're the new normal. Real people, real guns, real consequences for missing a regulatory update they never saw coming. These cases are why legislators pushed for December changes. And they're why gun owners need to stay informed, not just armed. Critics of these new rules claim they'll reduce gun violence. Supporters of gun rights say they'll only burden lawful owners. So what does the data actually say? According to FBI crime stats, pistols are the most commonly used firearm in both lawful self-defense and criminal violence. That's not an argument for or against regulation. It's just reality. Pistols are accessible, concealable, and effective, which is exactly why they're the focus of these updates. States with red flag laws report a modest reduction in suicide rates among gun owners, but they also report a spike in wrongful confiscations that take months to resolve. The NICS update has flagged thousands of previously approved buyers, but it's unclear how many were legitimate threats versus paperwork errors. And the pistol brace rule? The ATF estimates it affects over 3 million firearms, but compliance rates are estimated below 10%. That means millions of Americans are either ignoring the rule, unaware of it, or waiting to see if courts strike it down. The data doesn't settle the debate. It just shows how complicated enforcement has become. These changes didn't happen by accident. They're the result of coordinated efforts by gun control groups, federal agencies, and state legislators who've been planning this rollout for over a year. Organizations like Everytown and Giffords pushed hard for red flag expansions and background check reforms. They framed December as a turning point, a chance to tighten regulations before a new congressional session. On the other side, Second Amendment groups like the Firearms Policy Coalition and Gun Owners of America are mobilizing lawsuits in multiple states. They're calling these rules unconstitutional overreach and predicting a legal battle that could reach the Supreme Court within 2 years. Politicians are split along predictable lines. Democrats are celebrating the updates as common-sense reforms. Republicans are calling them bureaucratic harassment. And in swing states, both sides are using December's changes as campaign fuel for 2024. This isn't just policy. It's a proxy war over the future of gun rights in America. Police chiefs and sheriffs are caught in the middle. Some support the changes, arguing that stricter rules make their jobs safer. Others are publicly questioning whether these updates are enforceable or even constitutional. In rural counties, sheriffs in states like Montana and Wyoming have announced they won't enforce red flag orders, calling them violations of due process. Meanwhile, urban police departments in cities like Chicago and Los Angeles are doubling down, creating task forces specifically to enforce pistol regulations. The divide isn't just political, it's geographical. Big city cops see different crime patterns than rural sheriffs, and their opinions on December's changes reflect those realities. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Enforcement will be inconsistent. What gets you arrested in New Jersey might get you a warning in Tennessee. And that patchwork creates confusion, legal risk, and frustration for everyone involved. So what do you actually need to do? First, check your state's updated carry laws. Don't assume last year's rules still apply. If you own a pistol with a brace, decide now whether to register, remove it, or consult an attorney. The ATF isn't issuing grace periods anymore. If you're planning to buy a pistol, expect delays and have your paperwork ready. Old charges, even dismissed ones, can trigger a hold. And if you're in a red flag state, understand who can file against you and what your legal options are if it happens. This isn't fear-mongering. It's preparation. Gun ownership comes with responsibility, and that includes staying informed. December changed the landscape. January will test how many gun owners were paying attention. These rules won't go unchallenged. Multiple lawsuits are already filed, and more are coming. The pistol brace rule faces challenges in at least 4 federal circuits. Red flag expansions are being contested on Second and Fourth Amendment grounds. And the NICS update is under review for potential violations of privacy and due process. Courts could strike down parts of these changes, or they could uphold them and set new precedent. Either way, this fight is far from over. Gun rights groups are preparing for a multi-year legal war, and the Supreme Court, fresh off major Second Amendment rulings, is likely to weigh in. For now, the rules stand. But whether they'll still be standing in 2026 is anyone's guess. Here's the bottom line. December brought changes that affect every pistol owner in America. Some you'll feel immediately. Others won't matter until they do. But ignorance won't protect you. The law doesn't care if you didn't get the memo. What matters is whether you're compliant when it counts. Stay informed, stay legal, and stay ready to adapt as these rules evolve. Because one thing is certain, this isn't the last update you'll see. It's just the latest. Let me know in the comments below. Are these new pistol rules reasonable safety measures or government overreach? I read every comment, and your perspective might shape the next video. Keep it sharp, keep it smart, and keep it respectful. That's how we move the conversation forward. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Stay steady, stay aware, and carry with intention.